Hello and welcome to my video on the 5 reasons that people don't buy, and today I'm going to focus on the first reason, which is no need. In the last video we touched on the 5 reasons. I will really quickly recap those just to make sure that they're firmly in your minds. So 5 reasons people don't buy: no need, no desire, no money, no trust, no hurry. I did briefly touch on no need, and I sort of gave some examples as to why people don't need things and why people buy things that they don't need sometimes. Today I'm going to break that down a little tiny bit more, and I'm going to explain how with no need, we need to first of all, if we know they won't buy if they don't have a need, we need to turn that on its head and actually establish that they do have a need for the product. So we establish this by asking questions and actively listening. So we're going to ask questions. And we're going to actively listen to what the client says, and then we're going to respond to what they say. Okay? Okay, so then we're going to respond to what they say, and we're either going to empathise or we're going to agitate it in some way. So, examples. First thing we do, we ask a question. Okay, that question needs to be open-ended. For example, you're going to ask them why they contact you. What actually compelled you to make the inquiry online? What compelled you to pick up the phone and make that inquiry? Okay, they're going to then answer that. So we've asked an open-ended question. They're going to give us an answer. So they're going to act, and we're going to actively listen to their answer. We're going to listen to that carefully. Okay, and then we're going to respond by either empathising. So you're either going to say it's a terrible shame that you've encountered that situation, or you're going to say, you know, I can fully understand why you'd want to call us and talk to us about that. And then you're going to ask another question in relation to that. So it's going to be directly in relation. So we actively listen to what the client says, and then we respond to what they have to say. So this is what we call the conversation cycle. Conversation cycle. In the old days, we used to call it agree, answer, close. These days, we ask a question, we wait for the response, okay, so the client responds. We then listen to the response, and we literally respond to that by asking another question. But that question must be directly related to that response. So we're taking the customer on a journey where we want them to go, but we're in total control. Question, response, listen to what they're saying, respond and ask another question. But don't ask a question that's unrelated. Take them on the journey. Close it at this point, okay? So we need to close, and then we need to say, are you happy with that? And then we move them on. That's how you establish whether there's a need for your product, or in actual fact, this is where you can create the need for your product. So as a clever closer or clever salesman, you create the need even if there's not one, or there's not an obvious one. Okay. Now, probably it would be easier for me to demonstrate this than it would be to just explain it. So I'm going to try and demonstrate it based on conversations that I've had in the past in various businesses that I've been in. So when I was in the motor trade, I might establish the need by saying to the client, you know, why are you out looking for a car today? And they'd say perhaps something like, mine's broken down, or mine's starting to get older and I want to update it. Okay, so I would then ask a question relative to that. So I'd say, okay, that makes total sense. So how old's the car that you've got at the moment? And they'd go 2005, for example, back in them days. And I'd say, so what type of vehicle do you think you're looking for today? They'd go 2008, 2009, whatever. Or they'd tell me, I'm looking for a Vauxhall, I'm looking for a Volkswagen, or whatever car they were looking for. And I'd say, have you any idea, have you thought about the type of year that you'd be shopping in the market? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So we'd sort of establish, are there any colours that you hate, that you absolutely wouldn't want to be seen in? Yeah, that. Are there any models that you don't like? Blah, blah, blah. So that leaves in the Volkswagen range, XYZ model. Have you got a particular favourite? Yeah, perfect. Okay. So, just to recap, you want a car in this year, this model, within this price range, and any of these colours. Okay. Now, are you a person that worries about the amount of mileage on your car? Yes. Okay, great. So where would you say you'd be comfortable in terms of mileage? Oh, I'd be comfortable anything over 10,000 miles, but under 50,000 miles. Great. Okay, perfect. So you start to sort of establish what their needs are, if that makes sense. I'm going to take you on a different journey now. We've done that with the car. So when I was doing something called, believe it or not, I was one of the first people in payment protection insurance reclaim. So I'd ask different questions then. I'd say, for example, why did you, that's a swear word, isn't it, PPI? But I was one of the first. It wasn't, it definitely wasn't what it is today back then. You actually had to explain what the product was in order for people to understand. So did you ever have a loan? Yes. Did you have a loan between the years of 2000 and, I can't remember now, 2001 or 2 to 2000 and whatever, or 1996, whatever. I can't remember what the years were. Yes. Do you know whether you had something called payment protection insurance? I've no idea, never heard of it. Okay, let me explain what it is. When you took a loan in those days, it's highly likely that your bank or building society would have added that on, so that in the event that you became unemployed or lost your job, they would have that loan covered by payment protection insurance. And then, of course, you'd go on to explain the reasons why that wasn't necessarily in your best interest. However, it was in the bank's. And then the ways that it's been unfairly sold and things like that. So, you would then, by doing that, you would say to them, it's quite clear that you may or may not have given permission to have been sold that product. And if you weren't, if you never said explicitly that you wanted that product, then it's highly likely that you can reclaim that, and it could be a considerable sum of money. So could you use, for example, a couple of £1,000 at the moment? Oh yeah, that would be really useful. Have you any idea what you'd spend that on if that was made available to you? Oh, I'd buy this, that, or the other. Perfect. So we've then established why they should make the claim. We've established a need. Yeah. So if we can do that for you at a sensible price, is that something that you'd look for us to help you with? Yep, great. So then we'd start to take some details. So in a simplistic way, the client may not have ever realised they had a need to do that, but we established that need by creating a desire product, a desire for the money, by saying, could you use a couple of £1,000 on anything at the moment? You know, would you welcome having a couple of grand that you don't have in your pocket? Oh yeah, what would you do with it? Oh, I'd do this, this and this. Brilliant. Well, let's see if we can get you a couple of £1,000. I don't want you to make any effort, let us do it for you. And that's the sort of conversation that we would have on that product. I also worked years ago in selling bathrooms. I've done double glazing. I've done all sorts of things. I've done private healthcare. So the experiences that I've had along the way have helped me to create, to establish the need, often by using desire, so creating a desire for something to establish the need for the product. But I would always think out in front so that we had a meaningful conversation as to how we would get to that end result, which was to establish a need. Because I know in my head that if I don't establish a need nice and early, that client has got one of the 5 reasons people don't buy, and they'll walk away because I haven't done my job properly. Therefore, I invest my time in forming a relationship with the client. Okay, so a relationship with the client is essential. I'm going to say it again, a relationship with the client, okay, through a structured, cohesive conversation, not a sales pitch. In the same way that I'm talking to you now, I've got nothing written down anywhere, so it's just like all in there, and it's just a cohesive conversation, so that I might go off on a tangent and then pull myself back to where I belong, but that's part of the way that I do things. So, cohesive, structured conversations are where you get the results that you're looking for in today's modern, the way that we sell things today and introduce them to the market and talk to people about them. We don't pitch. We're not, if you pitch, you're in a tunnel. You're a bit like a horse with blinkers on, you know. This is where I'm going. And you're not actually listening to the client's needs. You're not understanding what they want. This is all about you. Right, this is the old days. Here I am. I'm Mr. Salesman, I've got my case and I've got my presenter. And inside my presenter, there's a formulated route for me to take. So I start at A, and open page 1. Bang, there you go, Mrs. Smith, boom, boom, boom. And I go through that and I open page 2. And there you go, Mrs. Smith, and these days that's gone. You'll notice I have absolutely no prompts or anything around me. It's all simply in the head. So I'm having, in my head, a conversation with you guys. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And I'm hoping that I'm making sense to you, although I probably don't at times, because I perhaps need to be a bit more clear with you. If I'm not clear, email me and tell me, Paul, that made no sense whatsoever. If I've made sense, then I hopefully, but the point I'm trying to make is that we need to establish no need. We need to establish the fact that they do need, so we get rid of the no. We'll do that quickly. So that we actually do have a need for the problem. Going to recap quickly. We ask some questions, we actively listen, we respond to what the client says. Okay, we ask some more open-ended questions until we've dug out a reason, because we're not stupid people, we're clever people. So if they don't give us the answer that we want initially, we dig again. We ask another open question. I'm going to give you some examples of that. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record, I'm going to ask somebody to be a guinea pig on a webinar for me, so that I can demonstrate how we open people up in terms of asking open-ended questions to create or establish the need. So hopefully that's made some sense. We use what we call a conversation cycle, so we're not pitching, we're not presenting, we're not going on this tunnel vision route. We're actually talking, we're listening, actively listening to our client, so that we can pick up on what's important to them, and then we can reintroduce that back to them at some stage. When we're saying this, okay, Mrs. Smith, does this work for you? Because I remember you saying earlier that you didn't like this, this or this. Will this fulfill that need? Will this work for you in terms of solving that problem? That's where we're going. So that's no need. I really would have liked to have introduced no desire, and I was desperate to try not to, because I want to treat that as individual, although they are intrinsically linked. So no need and no desire and you'll see the reason why in the next video. So if you've enjoyed it, I know I've probably waffled on a bit too much for you, but hopefully I've made some sense. If I haven't made any sense, obviously don't continue to watch me, because it won't work for you. And if I have, then please look out for my next video, which will be no desire. I'll probably end up linking it, or partially linking it back to no need, because as I say, they are linked together. Then we'll move on to the next one, which will be no money, no trust, no hurry. And I will sort of talk about how we do those things in the future as well. I have lots of other things that I'd like to talk to you about, but what I want to do basically is just get all these 5 reasons firmly locked in your head. No need, no desire, no trust, no money, no hurry. Boom. And then you're out of there. You've got the deal.